Hey everyone, this is the Fantasy Knuckleballers here. We're doing a new thing this week. We're doing NL Only draft. So basically, this is for redraft leagues, and you can use this as a tool to evaluate trades as well. Basically, we're going to do the first 4 rounds of an NL Only draft and how we rank the players from here to the end of the season. That's taking into consideration injuries, potential trades, innings limits, all that. So this is how we would be ranking the NL Only draft going starting on Monday, going to the end of the year. Want to add anything, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, just to get started, since you gave me the first pick, I'm going Ronald Acuna Jr. with the
Yes.
#1 overall pick. That's my guy. That's who I'm going with, #1.
You know, I was when I was doing my rankings beforehand, I was really wanting to do Fernando Tatis, and I think it would make a lot of sense to go for Tatis, but he did suffer that shoulder injury earlier in the year, and I still think there's something there in that shoulder. You can't tell it by the results that he's been putting out, which is a good thing. But I would probably go Acuna as well, just for that point alone. If it wasn't for that shoulder injury, I would be going Tatis.
Well, I'm good with Tatis. I mean, earlier in the year, I said sell him, sell him, sell him with a shoulder injury, but I think he's
Yeah,
a clear #2 guy.
yeah, and that's who I have at #2. I was wanting to drop him down a little bit more because of that injury. He's hitting. He has 17 home runs and 13 stolen bases. I don't. If he has a shoulder injury and can do that, then I'll take one.
I think they're 1 and 2, the most exciting players in the NL. I think you could put Shohei Ohtani in there if
Oh
use it
yeah,
both leagues. But they are both really exciting to watch. Anytime they're playing, I'm watching.
absolutely. I agree.
All
All
right,
right.
with the third pick, I'm going to go a little off board because I think most people would say Jacob DeGrom. I'm going to go to Trey Turner because I think Trey gives you 300 batting average. He's on pace for 25, 27 home runs, 30 stolen bases. He gives you so much in so many different categories. It makes it easy to fill out the roster. So I'm going Trey Turner here.
I absolutely agree. Of course, we're both really high on Trey Turner to begin with, but yeah, like Trey Turner, if you have him, you're set with stolen bases. You can compete with anybody with stolen bases, regardless of who else you draft. So yeah, he is the top of the lineup, gets a lot of at bats, has a good average, even getting quite a few home runs this year. Has 10 home runs, and that's nothing to sneeze at. So I'm there with you too. So far, we haven't deviated on any. Maybe we will here. My fourth pick would be Juan Soto, and I thought about Jacob DeGrom here with innings limits and the way pitchers in particular have been getting hurt this year. I've moved a lot of pitchers down where they would be normally. I would definitely move Jacob DeGrom back up beginning in next year's draft to at least 3. But because of the injuries and everything else, I would probably go ahead and take a safer pick with Juan Soto.
You know, I like that pick and I have nothing. I mean, right now we're in the part of the draft where there's all great players, but I'm going Jacob deGrom. I mean, I just think he's a difference maker. He's the best pitcher in baseball. You know, he gives you such a base that you can build on with your starting pitching. He's going to help you with ERA, WHIP, Ks. I think Jacob deGrom is my pick at 4. So we deviate a little bit there, but not much.
And like I said, I had Jacob deGrom at 5. We varied a little bit, but nothing major there, which is probably good. Like I think it's pretty safe. So this is where I can start go off the reservation, I guess, if you will. And you might say it's a homer pick. Maybe it is. So at the beginning of the year, when you do a draft, you have to go off of their history. How many years have they hit, 30 plus bombs? How has it been a 1 year fluke for him? Has it been, something that he's been leading up to? Has his stats been increasing? But with Castellanos, with this draft in particular, I'm looking at what have you done for me lately? Like, I really don't care what he did last year. I don't care what he's going to do next year. I'm worried about what he's doing right now. Castellanos has been a force in the National League. And with the exception of at least 3 of those players in front of him, there hasn't been very many people in the league that's been better than Castellanos this year. He just ended I think it was a 23-game hitting streak on Sunday, which was sad, but he's already starting a new one. The sky's the limit. He could get traded this year. There's probably a strong possibility he gets traded, but even then, depending on where he lands, he could even be in line for more of a fantasy play if he gets traded, depending on where it's to. What are your thoughts?
I like Castellanos. He might be the MVP if we were picking right now. I mean, I think he's hitting 359 right now. He's leading the league in batting average. But I think when you look at his card, he doesn't give you stolen bases. Year in and year out, he's been a 280 hitter until last year it kind of dropped. For me, I'm kind of going another guy, and I'm going to probably surprise you here because I thought about taking Trevor Bauer, but I decided to go Mookie Betts. I think I like Castellanos. I would probably have him 10 picks down from where you do, just because he doesn't give you anything in the stolen base category. And I don't expect that batting average to stay where it is. I think he's going to be right there with the runs and RBIs. I do believe he's going to be traded, and maybe that ballpark is not as good a hitter park as Reds Field, our Great American Ballpark.
Yeah. I had Mookie Betts at 11. And like I said, starting like around this part of the draft, I'm going more for what have you done lately. And Mookie hasn't been the Mookie of old. He definitely has a lot of season to turn that around. Maybe he'll have like an MVP second half. I think a lot of his problem has been with all the injuries the Dodgers have had. There's been a lot of inconsistencies there. They're getting a lot of production out of different players than they did last year. So I just had Mookie down a little bit further. I do like Mookie. He'll give you stolen bases, but like I said, he just hasn't looked the same explosive player as he did last year.
And one thing I would say it's only been 59 games or 60 games. We haven't even been, half the season to write Mookie off. Mookie's going to be Mookie at the end of the year. And so that's why I've got him
Oh
seventh.
yeah,
I have him higher than you.
yeah, and like I
Yeah.
said, by no means am I saying that Mookie is not going to turn it around. I have him on my fantasy team, and I really definitely hope he turns it around. But like I said, like doing a restart draft, I'm kind of looking at you know their track record plus what they've been doing here lately.
So
And
let me ask you a question, Aaron. You're
all right,
playing this year only. You're saying I would trade Mookie Betts for Nicholas Castellanos right now, head up.
I would, yes, absolutely.
Oh, I would not.
It would depends on, like, if you need stolen bases, obviously that's that's going to be key. But if you have stolen bases kind of wrapped up, and like I said, Castellanos is hitting 357, has plenty of power, and like I said, there's pitchers can't get him out at this point. Like I said, he's on base like 412. I know what you're saying. I know what conventional wisdom says. It depends on your team. If you need stolen bases, obviously that may not be the good trade for you. But if you're just playing for this year, the end of the year to the end of the year, I like Castellanos.
This
So
will be one to look at the end of the year.
yeah,
I think I got you here, but
you
you're yeah, your turn.
you're probably due. All right, I bet you guys know. I bet you I know what you guys think I'm going to do here, but you're probably going to be wrong. I'm going Freddie Freeman.
Wow, you surprised me. Okay.
Yeah. So Freddie Freeman's is having a pretty good year. Well, he's having as far as power goes, his power is right there, 13 home runs. His 229 average is not very good. He did win the MVP last year, and like I said, this whole redraft is balancing what they've done now versus what their track record is. And Freeman is playing for a contract, and I think that's going to come up big here in the second half. He's going to show the Braves and the rest of the league he's worth a big money contract. So I look for a big second half turnout for him.
Well, I'm with you. I think he's going to have a really good second half. He's hit a lot of balls hard that have been caught. I think he's pressing a little bit. I think he expected to have a contract done, and then the Braves have kind of been, didn't even make an offer. So I think Freddie is the guy that wanted to be with the Braves, stay with the Braves, and I really feel like the Braves are making a mistake by not at least making a good faith offer out there. But I can see this pick. I feel you, but I just wonder if you don't need to be thinking about some of the pitchers that are left on the board. One of the things I think is going to happen next year is we're going to see a lot more pitchers go off the board, a lot more pitchers be keepers. Um, when we're looking at it, it wouldn't surprise me to see 20 pitchers go in the first 40 picks next year.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. Like I think next year's with any luck, knock on wood, everything's going to be back to normal. What if we can remember what normal is. You're right. Like I would be drafting pitchers early and often. I think for the leagues that I'm not doing as hot in, it's because of pitching. I don't have that deep pitching staff that I normally do. In the leagues that I'm doing well in, I have that deep pitching staff. So I pitching is where it's at in baseball and in fantasy. So I totally agree. So who's your number 9 pick? Which
My number
pitcher?
9 pick is Max Scherzer. I think he's the guy. If I'm only playing for this year, I love Max. He strikes out a lot of people. So he's my number 9 pick. I like him over. I really considered Walker Bueller, but then I really looked at Max and just said, I think Max is a better pitcher.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I think a lot of these next pitchers that are in like the ranked here similarly, um, you can make an argument for like the Walker Buellers, the Trevor Bauers, and such. Like I said, he Scherzer's kind of a little bit lower on my list. I probably have him a couple ticks lower than I should. He is going to be looking for a new contract at the end of the year. I don't think innings limits will matter with him. He's not going to be. It's
I
not going to phase him either. He's been pitching for so long and everything else. They're not going to be worried about innings limits. So there's nothing to worry about there. And I can't argue with that pick for number 9. The pitcher I had a little bit higher is Yu Darvish. He's another pitcher that fits that category I just talked about. He's been doing it for quite some time. He's been doing it here in San Diego.
he's pitching great. I mean, I'm with you, but He's what, 34, 35?
Max Scherzer's 38, I think.
I know. I'm buying in on Max. But Max has a track record of the last 7 or 8 years. Darvish has been a little bit up and down. And even though he's pitching great right now, maybe the best of his career, I don't know. I mean, I think most people believe what you believe. I think I would go Walker Buehler just because he's younger and maybe it's his time to break out. But
Like you
no
said,
part of you, Darvish. I mean, I like him a lot.
if this was a keeper league or we keeping these players for next year, yes, certainly. But I think with Walker Buehler, I don't want anybody to think I, moved Walker Buehler down way too far. But with Buehler, there could be an innings limits issue there, and he's didn't pitch a lot last year. Granted, he went to the World Series and got some extra innings there, but I just don't. If I'm, this is more confidence, and I like Darvish for the rest of this year. In a keeper league, I like Buehler much better, obviously. But as far as what we're doing here, I'd go Darvish.
I gotcha.
All right, who you got at number 11?
Well, I just said his name. Walker Buehler is my number 11 pick. I think he's young. He's still developing. I think he's already right there. If you were picking pitchers, he plays for a great lineup. I like Walker Buehler.
All right. So here I kind of went back and forth between these two players. I'm always walking this line like during what they're doing so far versus their track record. And like I said, just for this year and this year only, Chris Bryant is playing for a contract. He's playing like he's playing for a contract. And, he has third base outfield eligibility. He's hitting 307. He has 13 home runs. Uh, he has a couple stolen bases. Uh, like I said, there's another guy that I was wrestling with, but I'll give a slight edge to Chris Bryant just because of the contract, and he wants to make that big money.
I like Chris Bryant. I guess the two things I have is the injury prone and he's not being consistent. But I really like him for the rest of the year. I'm with you. I think he's going to really produce. He could be MVP at the end of the year because he's trending like that. He's one of those players that could be. Um, the guy that I'm going between are two pitchers, and I'm surprised we haven't brought up one. I should have brought him up earlier, and really I should have already picked him when I picked Max Scherzer, or at least when I picked Walker Buehler. But the two guys I'm thinking of is Trevor Bauer and Brandon Woodruff, your guy.
Yeah,
So I'm going to go Trevor Bauer just because he gives me more innings. Um, I know there's some concern about with all the spin rate and stuff like that he could see a decrease. I mean, I just love what he brings to the table. He gives you lots of innings. He gives you lots of Ks. A little bit up and down sometimes on the other things, but he is definitely. I really think I ranked him too low. If I was doing it again, I would put him higher. But he's to me one of the top 10 pitchers, at least top 15 overall players.
I had Bueller at 16. I had actually two other pitchers in front of him. One of them being Woodruff. I'm going to kind of go back and hit my other guy that I was leaning on because I just had him. I had him and Bryant just neck and neck there. Bryce Harper, he's back from an injury. He had a long track history. He's not hitting badly this year. He's putting together a pretty nice year. And like I said, a lot of times uh, they get that early season injury and they just spend the rest of the he kind of falls off a lot of people's radar because of that. If you're looking at stats and everything,
You
but
know, yeah, I 100% agree with you. when I first ranked these, I had Bryce Harper like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then I went back and looked at it, and I'm not sure I was wrong ranking him 6 or 7, but then I had to look at what people were doing today, this year. But if you're going hitting, I don't think you can go wrong because he's one of the few guys who can give you 40 homers, give you 30 solid, and potentially give you 40 with some stolen bases.
Yeah.
I
He's
yeah, he's a really good player.
he's hitting 270. He has almost a 400 on base percentage. He has 8 home runs in those limited at bats. He's on track to do what Bryce Harper does. He'll pitch in some stolen bases too, just to keep your fantasy owners happy.
And my next guy is going to be your guy. I mean, when you look at his numbers, I mean, good God, I mean, he could win the Cy, Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah, like I said, he was my next best pitcher. Like I said, I had him above Trevor Bauer. There's a lot to like there with Brandon Woodruff. If it wasn't for him, my fantasy team would be in the gutter right now.
Little known fact, he went to Mississippi State. He was a right fielder and relief pitcher. On that Mississippi State team, there were 10 players that played in the Major League Baseball from the 2013 team, including Adam Frazier, Brandon Woodruff. I think there's another guy named Holder. Several guys that played. Hunter Renfroe was another guy that came off that team. But a really good team that didn't win anything.
That's odd. You would think a team like that would. But Brandon Woodruff is a 142 ERA with a .74 WHIP, 92 strikeouts. He's right there in the top 10, maybe even 8 in strikeouts. He's been pretty durable as well this year, which is a must-have for this year. Like I said, there's a lot to like.
Yes. And I was watching the interview with Adam Frazier, and he was talking. He said Brandon Woodruff always had the stuff. It was just a matter of unleashing it. One thing you got to say is Milwaukee does a good job developing pitchers. When you look at Woodruff, Corbin Burns, you look at Freddie Peralta, you even look at some of the other guys. Zach Davies they developed, or did they develop? Yeah, Zach Davies, and then they traded. I mean, they have done a really good job developing pitchers. I think they're probably underrated in that category.
Absolutely. Like I think this is a new phenomenon with their coaching staffs. They're leading the division right now with 5-game win streak. Now they're losing tonight, but they're not won 9 of their last 10 games, and they've been flat out getting it done.
You're right. The Cubs are hot. I watched the Cubs win today, and I kept saying the Cubs want to sell. I think they're all in right now.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think they're selling anybody.
I totally agree. I was looking at their runs scored and runs against, and their runs against is one of the best in the league. There's in the division itself, they've given up fewer runs than any other team. They haven't scored as many runs as the other top 4 teams. I'm excluding Pittsburgh in this conversation, but they're right there. I heard some tweets the other day talking about how the Mets hasn't even scored 200 runs on the season, but yet they're in first place by a couple games. And that's just because their pitching has been so good. And that's the same thing with Milwaukee. They haven't needed to score as many runs just because their pitching hasn't given them up.
That's true. I mean, when I look at the Cubs, I mean, you were talking their bullpen. That's what's surprising. I mean, I think we both kind of talked about Greg Kimbrell's. We didn't trust him. We said, "Oh, he's no good. He's going to get replaced." And then all he's done has been lights out. And then they got another guy, Ryan Tepera, who is, I mean, he's a free agent in our league, but he doesn't deserve to be. He's been
Yeah.
prominent. I mean, so they figured out a way to make it happen. I don't know how. Only that they've got a couple of superstars that are having great years. When you talk about Bryant and Baez, and they've got to, they could get hot and roll.
So I'm going off the reservation here a little bit. Again, I think we're watching potentially a future MVP in the making. You can't really talk about Castellanos' year without talking about Winker. If both of those guys don't make the All-Star team this year and are starting All-Stars, then I don't know what. Then it's a joke. Well, I think for a while people have been talking about it being a joke, but seriously, like there has over the last 2 years, I don't think there's been a player in baseball that has made the strides that Jesse Winker has made. He's showing that last year was not a fluke and that he's a legit power guy. He's a legit MVP performer. He doesn't give you the strikeouts. Yes, I know. His defense is better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He has 17 home runs, uh, 37 RBIs, hitting 346 with a 407 on base percentage. He's been the third best hitter in the National League this year. And in my opinion, he definitely deserves to be in your top 20. He's in my top 12, if not top 14. So I'd slide Jesse Winker in there. And like I said, it's a balance between this year and what they're doing this year versus their overall rankings, their histories.
I like him. I really like him. He's one of those guys I've always liked. I think if you just going to nitpick, he doesn't give any stolen bases, but he's always been an on base guy. He's always been a home. I mean, he's always had power. It's just now showing up to where we want it to be, and I think it's going to be there. I love the pick. I'm probably right here is tough for me because I'm thinking, do I take the number one relief pitcher off the board and take Josh Hayder, or do I take Nolan Arenado? I mean, this is a hard pick for me, and knowing how I am, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go hitting. I'm gonna go Arenado at 17. It's tough, and you can even throw Machado in there, but I think Arenado, I think has been more consistent. I think he's comfortable with the Cards. I can see them making a late run. Um, like I said, I really struggled trying to decide between Josh Hader and maybe Corbin Burns or Clayton Kershaw, but I decided to go hitter here.
I have no problem with that pick either. He's been pretty good this year. I think it takes a while for a player to adjust to the team, and I think there's still that transition period. Like Castellanos didn't come out and do what he was doing last year, his first year with the Reds, and a lot of times it takes a little bit of adjustment to get used to the new team, the new ballparks. Even though they've hit in those ballparks before, being in the home dugout versus the visitors dugout. Like I said, there's a little bit of a growth period there. I think Arenado will improve as the season goes along, and like I said, he hasn't been doing badly, so I don't have any problems with that pick. 11 home runs and 282 average, that'll work. And I'm going to take one of your guys that you were thinking about. I actually had him at number 14, but with the way the draft has worked out so far, Corbin Burns, we've talked a lot so far about the Milwaukee pitching staff. He is one of the more exciting young pitchers. This is the first pitcher. This is the first player that I've taken that might have some kind of innings limit issue, but I'll just ride that player while he's hot.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it really came down to I really felt like exactly like what you said. I thought there would be an innings limit with Burns. And so for me, that's why I took the hitter right there. With
Well,
Arts rankings, I'm with you.
the good thing with Corbin Burns is he's already been on the DL once, and he doesn't have as many innings as some of the other pitchers that are ranked around him. And he has less than 60 innings pitched, and he has less than 60 innings pitched, and he has 94 strikeouts on the year. That is ridiculous. Like I said, even if he does throw another 100, if he throws another 100 innings that gives him 160, that might be the upper limit. At that rate, you can almost expect, 150 plus strikeouts, and that'll be near the top of strikeouts for any pitcher for between now and the rest of the year.
Man, at 19, this is going to be really tough. We've already taken 12 hitters and 7 pitchers, so my original thoughts take Manny Machado, but now I'm looking back and I think I'm going Clayton Kershaw. He's pitching well this year. He's going to get all the innings. If I have him as the number one as the 8th pitcher off the board, I'm feeling pretty good. So I'm going Clayton Kershaw.
I can't complain about that pick. Kershaw is dynamic, and like we've talked about, he only has 76 innings on the year, which I guess is near the top of the innings there. But I don't really think there's going to be an innings limits per se on him. It's more of how can his body last the entire season, because he has had injury issues over the last few years. So there is that possibility. But yeah, I absolutely don't have any problems with that pick. And I think you've talked about this player a few times. I will take Manny Machado here. I think I originally had him at 15. Tell you what he's done. He's a consistent hitter. He's having a little bit of a down year compared to what he normally does. 235 average and 8 home runs. He does have 6 stolen bases. So like I said, you would expect that average to come back up closer to 300, maybe a 280 by the end of the year. But his home runs and his stolen bases are online, and he's that 5-tool player that can get you categories in all 5 offensive categories, and he still does play for a really good offense in San Diego. So I think it's a good spot for Manny Machado.
Oh, I'm 100% with you. I mean, he's one of the few guys that can get you 30, 35 home runs. So
Absolutely.
I'm with you. My guy, and I'm going to deviate a little bit. I'm going to go relief pitcher. I'm going Josh Hayder. I mean, I've never been one to take relief pitchers early, but there's so few relief pitchers that you can count on. It's made the guys at the top more valuable than ever.
Absolutely.
So I'm going Josh Hayder at 21.
You and I both had a similar philosophy with relief pitchers, I think, over the last 5 years, that we don't want to invest high draft capital on them, because usually the relief pitchers that are drafted later usually end up with more saves than those drafted early. But it seems like this year, those elite closers are very hard to come by. And to be honest with you, what I just said about those closers drafted much later in the draft are doing well again this year. Mark Malanson, he was not drafted in a lot of leagues and drafted very, very late in the rest of them. He's leading the league with 19 saves. Now, granted, at the beginning of the season, we kind of knew that was going to be a crapshoot. Everybody was looking at Pomerantz as the go-to guy. Didn't work out that way. Alex Reyes was another guy that wasn't drafted in a lot of leagues and drafted really late in others. Like I said, nobody drafted these 2 guys high up, and Alex Reyes is second with 16
I think
saves.
at this point, if we're looking for the rest of the year,
Oh yeah,
both those guys are going to go really high.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so it really came down to, with both those guys, Malanson, we really thought Pomerantz was going to have the job. Nobody thought Malanson was going to have the job. and especially with St. Louis. I mean, if you look
Oh
at
yeah.
Alex Reyes, I mean, I would have put him third in the pecking order, right? For the Cardinals at the beginning of the season. I traded him last year, and now I'm kind of regretting it a little bit.
Yep. I had a deal for Reyes at the beginning of the season, um, like the first week of the year, and I didn't pull the trigger as quickly as I needed to. I wanted to think about it for a couple of days, and it turned out that like they pulled the deal and they kept Reyes, and I've suffered for that. So, like I said, if you got to pull the trigger. I just had another trade that got nixed the same way. But Kimbrel is fourth too on that list with 14 saves. Actually, he's tied for second with, and he's not a closer that it was high on anybody's list, especially mine. So like I said, it goes back to what we were saying, at least what I was saying at the beginning of the year. Usually the top closers in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Kimbrel was on my do not draft list. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't have drafted him had he dropped. I mean, I'm not sure how far he would have had to drop before I would have picked him, but
Oh yeah, like he was going like ninth or 10th round in our league. I actually was getting to the point where I was almost ready to. I'm like, well, it's getting stupid late, and you got to take him at this point. And somebody snatched him right before me, and I was kind of happy they did at the time, but now not so much. So I'm there with you. Like Hayder's a good logical choice. Can't argue with that one at all. My next pick is a guy that started off the year really poorly, but has since turned it around and is hitting the ball much, 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 much better. And Francisco Lindor. And I think that goes with the Mets too. Like their team as a whole, they've had a lot of injuries. I don't really think it's any more than any other team. They have their share of injuries. He's giving you stolen bases, not as many home runs as you had hoped. His average is still at 218, but he is slowly and steadily bringing that up. I think by the end of the year, he should be at least 250 or 260. And like I said, he should give you about 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases at least. So I think it's a very solid and decent pick there at 22.
I agree with you. I think he's a really good player. He's got off to a slow start, but you got to look at the back of the baseball card. He's been a really good player. I think he's going to end up at the end of the year being a really good player. So I'm with you. At 22, no issues with this. I mean, we're still every player we're picking is a great player, so I have no issue with that. For me, the number 23 player on a limb, I'm gonna go, and I struggle with this pick, and I'll tell you why. I don't believe second baseman should be ranked as high as other positions because it's the deepest position in every draft. If we look at the number of second basemen that are available to be picked up off the waiver wire, there's always a second baseman to be picked. But I'm going Ozzy Albies. Look at you.
I know where you're going.
So when you look at what he produces, and I struggle, like I said, with second baseman going high, but to me, he's an elite second baseman in the league.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any problems with this one either. Um, he he started off really badly, and I ended up trading him earlier in the season for Corey Seeger, and then he proceeded to get hurt. That's been my year so far. 252 average, which is something he's been bringing up steadily. 9 home runs, 5 stolen bases. That's definitely nothing to sneeze at. Um, Atlanta's core is still, very legit. Yeah, I have no problems with that. It's very, and you're also right about second baseman. They're definitely, I won't say a dime a dozen, but there's a lot of good ones out there.
I think he's leading the league in extra base hits. He got a triple today, and that's
Really.
one of the comments. Yeah, he has a lot of doubles and lots of triples.
I am going with Pete Alonso.
Wow. Okay. You going off the grid there.
I am. I didn't think I was going off the grid all that much.
In
Um,
yeah, in my mind, you're going off the grid. I
Tell
have
me why.
batting average. And again, he doesn't steal bases. I think the power is going to be there, and he doesn't have average. So for me, if I'm picking in the top, and again, I've always been an average guy, but I don't have Pete Alonso. Honestly, I might have him toward the back end of the fourth round. Big
To,
difference.
to me, like he he provides a pretty consistent power, and it's not legit power. He has really legit power, and he's not batting too badly. He's batting a lot like he did in 2019, 255. He has 9 home runs so far. He's getting a lot of playing time with all the injuries, and he's not expected not to get playing time. But like I say, you're balancing, potential upside versus what they're doing so far this year. And Alonso's doing enough for me this year. And like I said, I think he can probably top 40 home. He could definitely top 35. I stopped myself from saying 40, but I think he definitely top 35 and put together a pretty nice season for you.
Yeah, I agree. He's 35 homer guy. I just worry it's going to come with a 240, 230 batting average, no stolen bases. And so for me, a guy like that goes a little bit further back. But he could definitely do 260, 40, and he probably has more power than anybody on this list so far. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So who should I have taken instead? So who's your number 25 pick?
this is where it starts getting tough, and it starts going with who you like and don't like as much. I'm going to go Zach Wheeler. He's going to give me 200 innings. I don't. He's pitching great. I think he's shown he's close to a number one, if not a number one. I like Zach Wheeler right here.
Yeah, like I said, Zach Wheeler's having a pretty good year, and you're right. Like this is around this time, it stops getting black and white, if you will, and
I
it becomes
agree.
a lot more gray there. But he has 100 strikeouts so far this year in 82 innings. I was never a big Zach Wheeler fan, but can't deny what he's doing. He has a sub 1 WHIP, I should say, a 251 ERA. He's doing what he needs to do, and like the Phillies need a lot of good starting pitching, and they don't have a lot of good starting pitching. But Wheeler's definitely been a bright spot on that team. So yeah, I'm good with that.
Damn it. I just got to interrupt. Will Smith just gave up home run to a rookie who got his first AB last night, hit a 2-run bomb, and beat the Braves.
What's this? What happened?
A rookie by the name of Williams. He got on base last night with a bunt, his first ever AB. Tonight he comes up, rocks Will Smith. He's a lefty, hits a home run, wins the game 2-1.
Nice.
No, it's not, because I worry about my Will Smith, but another
Uh,
story, another day.
yeah, I know that's
Phillies
a
win. I'm happy for the kid because he's like 26 years old. I don't know. And he came in last night, placed down a great bunt, scored a run, and now tonight he hits the winning home run. So good for him.
son of a.
Yeah. I just hated it was against my Braves, but okay. So who's your pick at 26?
I think I'm going to go with a guy that I should have drafted in our league, but I didn't. He has been getting it done all year. Julio Eures. I think that's probably the fourth uh, Dodgers pitcher in the top 26. He's definitely been getting it done this year. And let me see. From a fantasy perspective, he's number 17th overall. He has a 3.48 ERA, a sub-1 WHIP with 80 strikeouts. He hasn't been flashy, but he's quietly won. He's quietly has tied for the most wins in the National League, and because Jack Flaherty is on the IL, he will probably pass Flaherty this week.
I love Julio as well. I guess my concern is, does he get 140 innings, 150? I just wonder if there's other guys going to get more innings. Love the pitcher, love the pick. That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Probably maybe move him a little bit down. But like I said, I love the guy. I wish I'd picked him as well. My guy I'm going with is either last year or the year before's number one pick, Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, that's who I was struggling with.
I don't know why we're not giving him any love. We're in the round 3. He's healthy. He's young. What's not to love? He's been inconsistent, but he's still young. He's got first base and outfield eligibility.
Yeah, like I said, I was struggling with Cody Bellinger there at number 26, and if he was still there at 28, I probably would have went ahead and taken him there at 28. But yeah, that's definitely right in the range of him, and that's a good pick. All right, I am going at number 28, Trevor Story. He's currently on the IL, but he's supposed to be back potentially as early as tomorrow. And assuming that's the case, I think Trevor Story in Colorado he's still the best hitter on that team, bar none. There is probably a 50-50 chance that he does get traded here this season. And I pretty much think anywhere he could potentially land won't be as good as Colorado. I'll give you that, and that's probably why he's down at number 28 rather than
Absolutely
number in the top 12. But like I said, if you get Trevor Story at number 28, like that's not a bad thing.
No, I'm with you. I think he'd be top 10 if he was healthy, and he was going to be in Colorado all year. But I think the reality is he's coming off the IL. I would say it's 95% chance Trevor Story gets traded. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
So for me, that pushes him down. Otherwise, in all honesty, I'd put him top 10. And I think you could make the argument he doesn't get traded. And therefore, 28's a bargain. So I can see it both ways.
A lot of it depends on whether he actually does get activated tomorrow or this week.
One of the things that surprises me is we're at pick 29, but neither one of us picked the number one player in the NL. You know who that is, don't you?
I do.
And I'm not going to pick him. But
You're not.
No,
I thought you were.
It's Kevin Gausman. Am I right?
Yeah, he's definitely on my list here. It's coming up pretty soon, but
Kevin Gausman deserves to be number one, or he deserves to be number 29. I just can't pull the trigger. I mean, I worry about the split finger. It's like some years it's on, some years it's off. In San Francisco, it seems like he's turned the corner. I'm not sure I'm a believer. So I'm going to back away and probably go Edwin Diaz. I'm going to go another relief pitcher.
like I said, if it wasn't for this year, I would definitely disagree with you there. But like I said, really good pitchers are really hard to come by, especially really good relief pitchers are really tough to come by, and this year is proving that. I know in our league, our keeper NL only league, that closers usually go starting maybe around 2, and they trickle in at 2, they trickle in at 3, and then like by round 6, they're mostly all gone. I think next year it's going to be a lot quicker. I think the second and third rounds are going to be full of closers, just based on what this year's been like.
I agree. I think you're right. In the past, I would have waited. I don't know. Still a lot of time to put, between this year and next year, but um, I'm with you. I kind of believe closer is going to be more valuable. Aaron Nola.
Yeah, I gotta go Nola. He's I've been on a pitcher run. It seems like Nola. He's the other quality starter for Philly. He started off as the best pitcher over the first few weeks, and he's had hit some rough patches. But like I said, he does have track record on his side, and he's pretty durable. He should get plenty of innings. He has a 4.06 ERA and a 1.21 WHIP, 85 strikeouts. Like I said, you balance, potential with what they're doing right now, and I think Aaron Nola's potential. Um, like I said, I'll be happy to take him right here.
You know, honestly, earlier in my list, I had him at 16, and I watched him pitch last night, and that made me hold on Aaron Nola. He just doesn't seem 100% right there right now. I don't know if it's curveball, his fastball, but he didn't come across as an elite pitcher. But if you look at his track record, I'm 100% with you. He deserves to go here or either earlier. Like I said, I had him 16, and then I backed him out. So for me, my next guy I'm going with is probably a little bit of shocker, but I'm looking at position flexibility, and I'm looking at some guy that's done it over the last couple years. I'm going Max Muncie, first base, second base eligibility, maybe third base.
He's always undervalued in many leagues, and I've undervalued him a lot.
Me too.
There's, you know, Justin's always big on position flexibility. Um, 267 average, 13 home runs. There's a lot to like with him. He obviously LA still has a good team, and I think you pitched. I think the majority of the hitters you've taken so far have been Dodgers. You've taken all Dodger, all the Dodger hitters that have been off the board. You've taken them, so
Okay, I didn't know I loved the Dodgers that much.
apparently you do. And I think you've. Well, I can't say you've taken all the Braves because I did take Freddie Freeman, but
Yes, you did take Freddie,
I've taken all the Reds, so what's fair.
as you should.
So yeah, like I said, I'm okay with that pick. He's been undervalued a lot, and one thing it's hard sometimes to do is to kind of take those players that you have never really been high on. Um, but Javi Baez, I was really low on him this year, and to be honest with you, I'm still not really happy, to draft him.
I'm
But
with you.
his
I
his
understand. Keep going.
his numbers are his numbers, man. Like his average is a little low with 240, but 14 home runs and 9 stolen bases. That's you can win leagues with that. Like I said, as far as like other numbers, like you take batting average out, like his numbers is on par with anybody else on this board. Um, like I said, he is in a contract year, and I've already beat that horse to the ground, and he wants his money too.
No, I'm with you. I have him as the highest ranked hitter on the board. I couldn't pull the trigger because I keep waiting for it. I keep waiting for him to fall apart. I mean,
I
he
know.
he doesn't take walks. He's having, I think, his worst, as far as taking walk season ever. But he
7 and 204 at bats.
yeah, but he produces. So at the end of we're not in an OVP league. We're in a batting average league.
Yep.
And he gets hits and he drives in runs. He scores runs. He plays defense. He plays every day. I don't know. I'm kind of with you. Maybe we undervalue him. I don't know. I struggle with it. So he's one of those guys I struggle with. Now, with 33, this is one for you, Aaron, because I struggle between two players. And I struggle between a pitcher and a hitter. And the hitter is on your team. And I'm not sure I'm that high on him, but
You should be.
and I know you are. But it was between Keitel Marte and Joe Musgrove. And I'm going Joe Musgrove, even though I understand the Keitel Marte, he's always hurt. He doesn't run as much as you want him to. He definitely has the average, and he's only shown the power for 1 year. So now you can take him and tell me why I'm wrong, or whoever you like.
Well, you're always wrong, Rich. Actually,
Oh,
I can't say that because you kick my butt pretty much most leagues, most years, but so not that bad. It's, I have nothing but love for you, man.
all right. Well, tell me why I'm wrong taking Joe Musgrove.
I I'm not I'm not can't tell you that you're wrong there. Joe Musgrove's been a decent player. I did trade Musgrove earlier in the year for Kettle Marte, and like I say, he has 89 strikeouts, a sub. He has a .84 WHIP. That's good. That's really good. He had that no hitter earlier in the season. He came back the next game and uh, didn't pitch very good at all. He's the 16th ranked pitcher in the league. I'm sorry, he's the 16th ranked player in the league. Top 10 pitcher. So, like I said, there's a lot to love with him, and I probably would have taken Musgrove as well over Marte. I think starting around here, you start. At least I start taking players that have been producing a lot more this year, rather than what they've been doing in years past. I think I'm going to go with Sandy Alcantara. He's been my guy for a while. Rich just mentioned Trevor Rogers, and he's really high up on my list. Like next year, I'd have him probably higher than Alcantara. But Rogers, this is his second year in the majors. He doesn't have a lot of history. He doesn't have a lot of innings under his belt. He will more than likely have an innings limit, and that's what's keeping me from putting him in my top 34 there. I'd have Alcantara a little bit higher. I think he's a little bit more of a workhorse. He has a decent number of strikeouts. He has a really decent ERA and WHIP. Like I said, he's a little bit more of a steady workhorse than Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That's probably why I would take him above Rogers. Otherwise, I would take Rogers. And I
Yeah.
think I'd take Freddie Peralta. But I'm with you. If I'm looking for this year and looking for innings, Sandy Alcantara is going to get me those innings. So I see what you're saying. For me, and this is a hard one for me, but I got to go with the number one pitcher in baseball, Kevin Gausman. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna. He's not somebody I would have. He probably would have been gone by the time I drafted, but you got to look at his numbers, and he's dominating right now.
To
And
tell
I
you the
think
truth,
it's going to keep dominating.
if we had to do it over again, I might have moved Gosman up a few spots. Yeah, like you said, you can't complain with what he's been doing. He's been doing what he needs to do, and he's been doing it well. Like a lot of the other San Francisco pitchers have, you know, had some rocky starts here with DeSclafani and Alex Wood, um, Johnny Cueto. A lot of those other guys have had some rocky starts, but not Gosman. Gosman's been rock steady all freaking year. I'm taking the guy that you were going to take earlier. His hard hit rate has is tops in the league, one of the highest in the league. Uh, he is a dynamite player. He's multi-position eligibility. He's playing for a struggling team. A lot of people on that team is going to get traded. I don't think Marte will. Marte has a lot to prove there in Arizona. It's just hard hit rate. He has a lot, being on the injured list for over a month, like a lot of people may move him down a lot, but I think if you can get him at 36, you're getting a steal there.
Okay, for me, I'm going back for relief pitcher 3. Like I said, I think the top 6 or 7 relief pitchers are going to go really high next year. If I was picking for the rest of this year, I would pick relief pitchers higher than I did at the start of the year. I'm going Martin Malanson.
The only downside with him is he doesn't get the
Strike out.
strikeouts,
Yeah, agree.
but he's playing for San Diego, and San Diego has been money. Um, 19 saves on the year. He hasn't pitched this well in years. Now, you as a Braves fan should be saying, "Well, where in the heck was this at when he was hitting for the?"
He's always been he was really solid for the Braves, and other than he had a rough patch with San Francisco, he's always been really good.
Yeah, like I said, he's been money this year. I can't argue that. I definitely can't argue that pick. And I will probably say keep the run going there on relief pitchers. Alex Reyes. This is the first relief pitcher that I've taken in this draft, and like I said, his numbers has been almost as good as anybody else's. 16 saves. The Cardinals, a good team. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. Being in that, one thing I worried about with him at the beginning of the year was his innings limits, but keeping him in the closer's role, it's going to limit the number of innings he's going to get, and it's a perfect situation for him.
For me, and I like Reyes too. For me, my next guy, I'm going a little bit off the board. I'm going Ryan McMahon. He gives me second base, third base eligibility. Colorado gets hot in June, July, August. I'm looking for him to. He's already producing like a top 40 player. I think he's going to continue through the summer. Kind of hate I traded him, by the way.
Yeah, like I said, I have him in a couple other leagues, and he has been fantastic. Um, yeah, definitely no complaints there with that pick.
Homer pick. It's a homer pick.
Maybe it's a homer pick, but if you look at his numbers, if you take everything out and strip it down, he has not played but 7 games all year. He's going to have a little bit of a rough start here and there. Last year he was phenomenal. And in the games that he's played this year, he's been phenomenal. The only, black mark against him this year, besides being, out for almost 3 months, is not stepping on first base the other day and getting robbed of a home run as a result. But I like what this kid is doing. I like what this kid's about. And if you're just looking between now and the end of the year, like I said, I think you can probably. I would look for at least a 300 average. I think 20 home runs is very doable between now and the end of the year. And he might even add in a few stolen bases for good measure. He probably won't get the 376 average that he had last year in 24 games. But like I said, I think a 300 average is very doable. He's already at 333. And like I said, maybe it's a little bit of homer pick, but at this point, you're looking at upside between now and the end of the year, and I like him.
Okay, I like him too. Here's where I disagree with you. I think he's really good. I'm not sure he's a 20 home run guy between now and the end of the year. His career best in the minor leagues, I think, was 12. He's a really good player. He plays for the Pirates. The number one hitter on the Pirates might get 80 or 90 runs and 80 RBIs. So he plays for such a bad team, it hurts him. So do I like him in the future? Yes. Do I like him for the rest of the year? I would probably pick somebody else. I can name some other hitters that I like better. A couple guys we haven't talked about. Might be Reese Hoskins or Tyler O'Neill. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and go with a pitcher. I'm going Trevor Rogers. And I do worry about the innings, but he's been lights out.
I would personally, I really think I'm looking back over the list here. Corbin Burns might be there up there with that category there, but I think if there's any pitcher on this list so far that would be might be a victim of that innings limits, it's Trevor Rogers, and I I love him. Like I said, I'm with you. Like if I'm drafting next year, and the the careers stay on path, if Rogers continue to do this for the rest of the year, I would definitely take Rogers above Alcantara. I'd probably take him above Aaron Nola. There's a lot of he might even crack my top 20 if he keeps this up. But like I said, it depends on whether his trajectory still is on the same path there. But like I said, I just worry about him being, cut off after about 120 innings, and there's not a lot of innings between now and then. He's already at almost 70. So you're talking about maybe another 50 innings. But like I said, that's just a number that I see him getting to. It could be a little bit more. It could be a little less.
I think he's probably going to go 140, but I can see your point. But what I'm looking at is give me those 70 innings, then let me figure it out the last month and a half. Because if I'm in first place, let me figure it out.
I
Get
got you.
me to first place.
I hear you.
So he's one of those guys that can get you there.
There's another guy that I wasn't very high on at the beginning of the season, but you can't argue with the results. He's more of a stable player. He didn't pitch last year. Um, I think that helps him between now and the end of the year. I would much prefer Stroman over Rogers just from the innings limits perspective. Next year, you're right, Rogers over Stroman, but between now and the end of the year, I'll take Stroman just because his innings limits much higher. So far, he has a 241 average, or I'm sorry, ERA, a 107 WHIP, 59 strikeouts, and 71 innings. I'd like for him to get a little bit more strikeouts, but his other numbers are so good that I think it's still a good pick right here.
He's pitched really well. I'm good with the pick. There's probably 5 guys that I like better though, from a starting pitching standpoint. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I really don't have a problem with the pick. I would probably say Freddie Peralta was better if I was picking, even with the limited innings, just because he's so dominant and with the K's. I would say Ian Anderson has better stuff. I would say Pablo Lopez might be better. I can name 2 or 3 guys that I would say better. But I mean, if you're looking at what he's done, he plays on a good team. I understand the pick. He produces. They're not going to limit his innings either. So
Yeah,
that's the good side of it.
and that's where I was going with that at. But yeah, I'm right. Freddie Peralta would be a pick I would take before Stroman next year. Um, Lopez is out of the ones you mentioned. Lopez may not have the same innings limits as some of the other guys, but yeah, I see where you're coming. Who's your 43?
Well, my guy's Trent Grisham. If he comes off the IL, he's a guy that I really didn't have as high going into the year, but now I like the guy. I think we undervalue him a little bit because of the power speed combo, and he actually hits better than we give him credit for.
I can agree with that.
Who's your 44? Oh,
I like my guy, man. I can't help it.
You
There's a
have
couple of
overvalued Dylan Carson, but I'm giving you crap for you
yeah,
believe in your guy.
I believe. Like he has a high upside, and like I said, I've always been a high upside person. He's he started off struggling a little bit. He found a pretty good home there, uh, batting second, and like I said, he has a 271 average, and he has 6 home runs. It's nothing major, but like I said, he's hitting right there in the middle of that really potent lineup. I like where he's batting. He's right in front of Goldschmidt and Arenado. He's going to have he's going to score a lot of runs this year, and he's going to have some RBI opportunities. There's some other guys that's more proven that you could really make a case for, and I get that.
I like him a lot too. I'm giving you a hard time. I might not rank him this high, but I do see the future's there. I mean, you can see it happening, whether it's this year or next year. You can see him breaking out and being that star player. You can see the path to where he's going to be really good. For me, I'm going Freddie Peralta right here at 45. I think all he's done is like 64 innings and 92 Ks. He's got a whip less than one. He's got an ERA around two. He's the number 6 ranked starting pitcher in the NL right now.
Yeah,
And we're taking him number 45. And I think the only reason is we all have trust issues about the innings, and he's the guy that you got to have. You worry about innings right here, and you kind of worry about what is Milwaukee going to do. Are they going to shut him down for a couple of weeks and then open him back up for the playoffs, or are they going to move him to the bullpen? So there's some concerns there with Freddie, and I totally get it.
my only hesitation there is the innings limits, and like I said, we kind of beat that one to death. I think here there's a lot of pitchers off the board, and there's not a. I think the pitchers are getting thinned out, and rightfully so. But I think I'll go something a little bit more of a proven veteran there. Anthony Rizzo. I thought about taking him at 44 instead of Carlson. I think Rizzo. I think Carlson's upside is a little bit greater. Rizzo, you kind of know what you're going to get, and like I say, he's not having a bad year, so you know what you're going to get, and he's going to help you do what you need to do. I think he's under a contract year too, so
Yeah,
he might get a little bit more of a bump in production here based on that as well.
and that might be a sneaky pick just because he's been off to a slow start. He had a slow start last year and kind of heated up as the summer went. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, when you're looking at, when you're looking at hitters, the guy that can give you some upside, it might be Anthony Rizzo. It kind of made me want to think about Paul Goldschmidt, but I'm gonna hold off on Goldschmidt, and I'm gonna go with number 47. I'm gonna go with JT Realmuto.
Yeah, I've been looking at him for a while. He's the best catcher in the league. He's on a decent offense. He hits in the middle of the order. Yeah, like I said, no arguments there. And I think we agreed to do the top 44 rounds. We could go a little bit further if you want, but we can discuss some ones that we were close to but never did. But as far as like the 48th pick, I'm going a little bit off the reservation, or at least the standard picks a little bit more. This guy is exciting. This guy is also not on my team. But if I had a chance to snatch him up this year, I would do it in a heartbeat. This guy is fun to watch, and he's going to be an exciting player. I think next year he's probably he's probably a top 36 pick or more next year. He's hitting 268, 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases. Um, he he makes things happen when he's on the bases. He's a really fun person to player to watch, and like I say, he makes the Marlins much more interesting.
I totally agree. I love to watch him play. I'm kind of scared of him just because he's never really produced in the minors as far as batting average. And even, at the major league level, it's kind of a concern. But if you watch him bat, I mean, he has, I don't know, it's almost like he's a rubber band. I mean, he has super power, super speed. He looks like an athlete.
Yeah.
I could easily see him doing 30-30 one year. So if you're gonna take a long shot, I like Jazz. I actually had him in my top 45, even though I wouldn't have picked him. So I think a lot of people would agree with you, though.
Yeah. So, do you want to just mention a couple of players that we didn't
Yeah,
pick that
yeah.
we?
A couple guys I like that I didn't pick. Um, I will go back to the closers. I really think Greg Kimbrell and Kenley Jansen will go earlier next year. As far as hitters, you know, I, you know, I, it's a struggle because hitters are not as valued as much. I'm trying to look at them from this year to next year, and I don't know who's going to take that next step. But I really like Pablo Lopez um, at 20 to be the next starting pitcher. And then there's a bunch of guys that you just don't know. I mean, Garrett Hampson, is he going to hit enough? Reese Hoskins, is he going to hit enough to be that guy? Chris Taylor, he's always been a really good player, but never played enough. But if you were looking at him right now today, he's a top 30 player. Um, who do you think that you're excited about out of that list?
Well, out of the players that we didn't draft,
Yeah,
and like
out of the ones we didn't draft.
the ones that I really wish that I would have drafted, or at least
Tommy
you know,
Edman.
I I almost picked Tommy Edmonds over Dilla Carlson and Brian Hayes, so he was up there. But no, even before that, Austin Riley. We talked about that, and I was going to save your Atlanta players for you. He's getting it done this year. I know a lot of talk was with Braves fans over the offseason about, they need to get a third baseman in. They need to get a third baseman. And they were just kind of writing off Austin Riley because he struggled the first 2, 3 years in baseball. And, a lot of times people don't come up and, hit the ground running. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And apparently is what Austin Riley needed. He's got 11 home runs. He's hitting 312. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Not even you, Rich.
No. I really do like Austin Riley. I mean, I think my question's more on the defensive side and then the batting average side. I don't see him being a 312 hitter, but out of the Braves players, he has more power than anybody. I mean, if you're ranking Braves power, you're ranking Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna second, and then probably Wilson Contreras third.
Yeah.
So he has elite power, even above Ronald Acuna when it comes to power. He could potentially hit 40 home runs one year. The question is, can he continue the batting average? The question, the question that a lot of scouts have had has been, can he catch up with the big time fastball? And so far, he's made the adjustments to where he's doing that. I think most people expect him to be a 250, 260 hitter with power. And I think the power is legit. I think the question
Yeah.
is defense. He has 10 errors already this year. What about you?
Power, you're right. Power is legit, and he's definitely somebody to watch. I'd love to get him in our keeper league here, and I might try to make a play for him. I don't know whether I'm going to get him because the guy who has him is really likes him. So I may just try to put some offers out there. Like I said, he's just somebody that I'd like to have.
Yeah, you're right. I possibly should have ranked him higher, thinking about it.
Yep.
But there's lots of good players. And that's my biggest concern. I guess he had a bad game today because I was watching it. And he had a couple of errors and but he like I said, he's a legitimate player.
Another guy is Christian Yelich. He's a top 3 player like going into probably even this season and last couple of seasons, and he didn't even make our top 48, which is something. I For me, like I was burned by him there in 2020, and if you are burned by a player, you really hold that against the player a lot, and he hasn't really done enough this year to make me think that 2020 was a blip on the radar. He's not doing as bad as he did last year, but he's not doing enough to make me think that he's a top first round guy versus a round 5 or 6. So
No,
he's
I'm with you. I think you could have made an argument that he made our fourth round, but
yeah,
I mean, right now he's injured. He's got a back problem. I don't. Back problems they don't go away. So I think if maybe you could have made an argument that he went in the fourth round with us, but I mean for the rest of the year, I'm not banking on Christian Yelich.
yeah. I totally agree. Like I said, maybe next year, like he can, you know, put it all together, put everything behind him. But like I said, it's one of those show me first, and then I'll believe you. But I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't go too much longer without drafting him for sure. And probably most leagues he would have already been. If you're doing a redraft league, he probably already would be gone. So that's probably a good thing. And another guy that I'd like to bring up, another hitter here too. He doesn't get a lot of run, but he probably should. And it's just a guy that nobody really talks about in fantasy, but he's been quietly having a really good year. And like I said, I'd love to have him on my team. He has second base, outfield, and shortstop eligibility. I wouldn't be surprised if he got first base or third base eligibility before the end of the year. You know who I'm going here with?
I'm kind of curious. I'm thinking. Tell me who.
Chris Taylor.
Oh yeah,
Like I
Chris
say,
Taylor. Did we not pick Chris Taylor out of this list?
we
I thought I
didn't.
did earlier.
No, you picked all the other Dodgers.
Oh well,
You
yeah.
picked
I told
Max Muncie.
no. You're totally right. Chris Taylor. The only thing that's kept him from being a keeper in previous years is playing time, and whenever he's got playing time, he's produced. To be honest, I think I probably had him in my top 48. I just forgot about him.
Yeah, like I said, when you get in these later rounds there, like it does start the lines of the lines where you should put him starts graying a lot more, blurring.
But he's kind of one
So,
of those players that you'd like to call a compiler. He
oh
does
yeah,
a little bit of everything. Nothing
he's
really great, but if you give him enough plate appearances, he produces.
and
He's got
Tommy.
stolen bases, he's got home runs, but he's not going to hit you 30. It's going to be in the 20s. He's not going to steal you 30. He's going to steal you 15. I don't know, but he's a really good player. You're right. He covers
He's
a lot
kind
of
of
different
he's kind of
positions.
like older version of Tommy Edmonds. And Tommy Edmonds, like I said, Tommy Edmonds probably should have been on the list too. Um,
Yeah.
13, 13
Who do
stolen
you like
bases.
better, Tommy Edmonds or Chris Taylor? It's a good question. It
Yeah, like I
really
said,
is a good question.
I guess it depends on. That's a that's a very good question. Chances are like I would probably put Edmonds a little bit higher just because of stolen bases, but yeah, like I said, if I missed out on Edmonds and ended up with Taylor, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a tough one because Taylor gives you more power, and they
Yeah,
both have infield outfield eligibility. So, and then you might could say, I don't know. Do you say Taylor's a better hitter than Edmund? I don't
I
know.
think he's a more experienced, more accomplished hitter. So if you're
One
if
thing
you
that worries me about Edmund is power.
yeah,
That
but
so
he gives you enough on the base pass that I think it makes up for it.
could be. You're right.
But those are some of the guys that I probably wish that I would have made it into top 48, but didn't. So I think I like this list. Not a bad list.
No, I like our list, but I'm with you. There's a couple guys thinking back. I'm with you. I could see any of those guys being there.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoy this. We're doing, like I said, we're continuing to do a little bit different of a show. If you have any suggestions for future topics or shows, go ahead and leave them in the comments or shoot us an email at mvp@fantasyknuckleballers.com. You can send us something on Twitter at fknuckleballers, or check out our site, fantasyknuckleballers.com. And I appreciate you watching, and look for us next week for our next show. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.